Here we go, ready to roll. We now are in the world. We have all of this knowledge and wisdom. We decide to come into form, physical form. The four principles of the body that we are dealing with when we come into physical form are: what is your relationship to your physical body? That means diet, health, nutrition, exercise, rest, and activity. Exercise, activity are not always the same. That's one, physical body. We're also looking at our relationship to, it's all about action that supports your spiritual purpose. So our physical bodies need to be supported in order for us to act in the world. What are the domains that we act in? We look at our relationship to home environment and work environment. Our energy level in those environments. Do we feel an energy boost? Do we feel depleted in our bodies when we go into those environments? How do we interact and act at work and at home? It's another dimension of the physical gifts and lessons that our spirits provide for us to fulfill our destinies. The third dimension has to do with how do we manage, and also in that physical world about home environment, work environment, that includes your financial environment. How could I forget? Because in our world, finances are connected to both of those. We get money at work and it pays the rent or mortgage. And so how are you working with money? That's an energy as well. We must not forget that aspect. A third aspect or element when we're dealing with the physical world has to do with right action in relationship to our habits, our patterns, and our routines. Are the habits of your life supporting you, building your energy, boosting your enthusiasm? Or are the habits depleting you, injuring your health physically, or creating clutter in your home? What are the habits that you have? What are the routines and the patterns that boost your energy or deplete your energy? That's the other dimension that we're looking at in the physical world. It is in the physical world that we are looking at creating impact and results. So how effective are you in materializing your values, your aspirations, your ideals? Your values is really based on your emotions, your aspirations, a spiritual purpose, or the wands. Your ideals is really the swords. You'll find as we go through the deck that everything interrelates. But the physical world is how do you materialize your values, your aspirations, and your ideals in concrete ways. Do you meet your goals? And if you don't, then there is an opportunity for new growth and development. So we are going to begin understanding our relationship to Earth, which is such an important relationship because guess where we're living? Right here in the physical body. And the symbol of Earth, the potential from this great spiritual force that takes so many forms, comes into the physical world and is symbolized by the Ace of Pentacles. And you have been playing with and pulling the aces as well over the last couple months. Just to remind you, the Ace of Pentacles and the sign for Earth, which is the triangle upside down, which is water, and we have a line going through that because that's the horizon line. Water comes down, penetrates earth, and goes into the ground. That's why this is the symbol of earth, the triangle with the line at the bottom of it. So we have this beautiful gift of a pentacle coming out of a cloud. The earth is a spiritual gift to each and every one of us. We learn on earth how to walk the golden path of consciousness here in this physical world by walking through the garden of lilies and roses, discovering our virtues and our passions as we pass through the arbor or the gateway, symbolic of the tests and challenges of the earth, as well as the beauty and gifts of the earth, until we come to the beautiful blue mountained peaks in the background. Blue is a symbol of calm, peace. In some decks it might be purple mountains, which would be highest level of spiritual power in the material world. Essentially, our task is to spiritualize matter, to find a way to integrate all of these spiritual principles that are represented by the major arcana here into our physical body. There are 4 dimensions within the physical domain that the path of the tarot cards represents. And this path, going from Ace to 10, is a description of what life would be like if you only lived in the physical world. Now the truth is, we all start with a full deck, which includes an emotional world, a mental world, an intuitive world, and a physical world, but we're going to pretend for today it's only physical. And this is what you can expect. You might remember that we started with a song about being a beautiful garland in the hand of God's mystery, the great mystery of life, wrapped in sovereignty in the palm of your source. What is sovereignty? In the minor arcana, sovereignty is represented by a progression of movement through what are called the court cards: the page, the knight, the king, and the queen. The way I position these cards, king and queen, you'll notice sometimes I put the queen as the highest level of attainment. Sometimes I put the king. How do I determine that? I figure that this is a divine marriage and they face each other. So here the king is looking to the left and the queen is looking to the right. Hence the highest level of attainment in the physical world is about a beauty and receptivity to our deepest creative feminine nature. It is the feminine which creates life in this physical world, with the exception of seahorses, in which the male creates life. There were lots of experiments as life was taking form. But by and large, if it is sexual, which means male and female, it is the female or the feminine which is the one who is the birther of life, the birther of the creative form. Therefore, the queen is the highest level of attainment. The queen, like the empress, are the only pregnant cards in the entire deck. That level of archetypal creativity that is associated with the empress takes on a material, physical form in the symbol of the Queen of Pentacles or Queen of Discs. Now, how I have in mind for us to work this is, as we go through the cards, each one of you has a destiny number. Your destiny number will indicate to you the particular gifts and challenges you have that resonate with your number. So if you are a 1, you will have the number 10 as your particular gift or challenge, depending on the card or the suit. If you are a number 5, you will have the fives of every suit as a special reference for a lesson or learning for you. That's why I wanted you to sit with the people who are part of your destiny number, because you might have special insights for each other about those numbers, because you've lived them. And it's nice to talk with. We've actually all lived all of them, but some of them we get to repeat more frequently. Here we are, we now come into the physical world. And the first thing we have is to respond to and relate to the symbol of 2. The number 2 is always about finding harmony and balance. And what we see is a little guy with little green slippers of creativity, dancing or juggling, we can't quite tell, with his red tights and red hat. He's kind of ruled by his passions and desires. He's wearing brown, which is an image or symbol of, again, earth and materiality. And he's juggling 2 coins between a sign of infinity. You know what? Oh, and behind him we have a wavy sea with boats going up and down. This is a symbol of change. Soon as we land in the physical world, life changes. It's called impermanence in the Buddhist teachings. And how do we respond to and handle impermanence, handle the changes? In the physical world, as animals, we really like a certain amount of predictability. But the truth of the physical world is cyclical change. So how do we respond to cyclical change? The answer of how to respond to cyclical change is symbolized by the sign of Jupiter in Capricorn, which is the astrological association with this card. Jupiter is a crescent moon on a cross of matter. We respond to change by staying in touch with our intuition, represented by the moon, and finding a way to bring it into balance with material reality. That's the cross of matter. And Capricorn is the sign in the zodiac that represents having a structure, a plan, a strategy. So this plan or strategy needs to be expanding. Jupiter is the symbol of expansion. We expand upon our plan, add to and adjust our strategies based on our intuition in a way that is in harmony and balance with inner world and outer world. That's the cross of matter. Remember, the equisided cross is balance between inner and outer. We see this same message that I just gave you by looking at the 2s. We find that point of balance that the High Priestess guides us in order to bring ourselves into a greater sense of harmony and balance by using the sort of discrimination so we can make good judgments by going in the direction of the change that is going to fulfill our greater purpose or destiny. We're all now living in the physical world. We all now recognize that the world is full of change and we need to collaborate because we cannot possibly do it all alone. This card, the 3 of Pentacles, has an image of an architect who has the plans, the craftsman who is doing the work, and the monk who has the vision. We need to bring these 3 dimensions together, the spiritual vision, the intellectual plan, and the capacity to do the work in order to create the change that is going to support the materialization of our values. We need those 3 components. We'll notice when we look at these figures that actually the craftsman is the one who is up on the bench. He's doing the work, but he also is the one who has a different perspective And sometimes it's when we're actually doing the work, when the rubber meets the road, we realize, oh, we might need to adjust this a little bit. And so he then needs to share what he has learned, obviously, with his compatriots so that things can be adjusted to still fulfill that vision and work with the plan in a way that it can actually, in a concrete material way, be fulfilled. This card is associated with the creative vibration of 3. 3 is always about creativity. Likewise, it has astrological associations with Mars and Capricorn. Mars is the planet that is associated with dynamic energy, focus of direction, and sometimes even aggressive action if it's not managed well. In this case, it's the skillful management of your drive, enthusiasm, energy, and direction. Mars is the symbol of a circle with an arrow. We take that experience of wholeness, the circle, we give it focus and direction. In this case, within the context of Capricorn, that capacity to have a strategy, a plan, that allows us to get the job done. What we need in order to collaborate with others, to fulfill our destiny, fulfill our spiritual mission, we need to connect with all of the number 3s. We might need to surrender our point of view and get a new perspective on things, the Hanged Man, number 12. We might need to be more self-loving and self-accepting, as well as accepting our boundaries and limits, as well as then being able to extend love and acceptance of others, even when they say no or yes to us. Then we can come together in a whole new way by being able to bring in a dance that is liberating the creative energy of the mind, symbolized by Aquarius, the emotional enthusiasm and values, symbolized by Scorpio, our creative energy and imagination that allows us to be spontaneous, which is the Leo, and that ability to build healthy habits, patterns, and routines so that things can come into form. So you need to ask yourself when this card shows up, how comfortable are you asking for help, collaborating with others, working cooperatively? Collaboration is a gift, and for some of us it's also a challenge. I don't know if anybody here is challenged by this particular opportunity that the 3 of Pentacles brings us. And it invites us to take the next step on the path, which is the 4 of Pentacles. The 4 of Pentacles, you'll notice, is a fellow who is sitting. He has a pentacle under his right foot, a pentacle under his left foot, a pentacle over his belly, and a pentacle on top of his head, and he's holding on to it all. How many of us, when we begin to collaborate, have not completely integrated the lessons of boundaries? And we maybe overextend and give away too much. We forgot to get a new perspective, and we might have lost our world in some way. If that happens, the 4 of Pentacles shows up and says, it's time for you now to regroup. Learn to hold on to what you need to hold on to and let go of what you don't need to hold on to. Very important lesson. This is about the building of identity that is in alignment with the plan that allows you to fulfill your destiny. It is associated with the Sun in Capricorn, Sun is always about identity. Each one of us is whole, which is the circle. In the center of the circle, there is a dot. That dot is the seed of spirit. Each one of us is born with a seed of spiritual wisdom that is seeking to be manifest between us, and within us. So the question then becomes, how do I create a plan, which is Capricorn, that allows me to fulfill my purpose through this physical form, this identity? We must have enough power, self-worth, and self-esteem to be able to take a stand for ourselves. That's what this card is about. It's not surprisingly associated with the Emperor and the Death card. We learn what to let go of. Sometimes it's taken away from us. And we also learn what is truly within our power and how to become a stabilizing force that can truly nurture and protect the vital life force of spirit within us so it can take form in the body in relationship to our health, diet, exercise, activity, rest and sleep, in relationship to the experience of our habits, patterns, and routines. You might need to assert discipline, for example. In relationship to our home and work environment, creating a structure, that's Capricorn, that will nurture and support your identity. And then last but not least, if you have been able to fulfill and do all of that, you get to meet your goals. The image and picture of this card, which is very significant, is now, instead of like the 3, which is inside in the temple or the sanctuary, where we collaborate ultimately with people from this deeper kind of vision and sharing. Now he's standing in the streets of a large city. How do we bring it out to the world and to the community in a way that has integrity? This is a card that says it's time for you to be whole. So when this card shows up in your life, it's asking you, how comfortable are you with power, really material power? How comfortable are you with your finances? How comfortable are you with your position at work? How comfortable are you with your position at home, in your home environment? How comfortable or competent or capable are you in these different domains in relationship to the discipline or the support to establish healthy habits and routines that energize and boost you using diet, exercise, nutrition, rest, and activity, so you can fulfill your mission in life. So now, when this card shows up, it really is asking you to explore, how comfortable are you in the material world, being a power and a force here in this world? So take a moment. Of course, we have no emperors in this room.
That's the card that I picked.
Yes, so some of you picked it for the year, and so this is something that is walking with you in the year. So it will have more resonance now that I'm talking about on the material level. This is something that you're asked to explore.
The 4, what does the 4 represent?
The 4, again, is representing the creation of structure and foundation. Cornerstones, if you think of it in those terms. What is it that will protect and support whatever it is that Spirit has in mind, or whatever it is that is coming through, particularly whatever it is that is being born in the Empress. She's pregnant. She needs protection and support. The 4 is the power that does that. So in the material world, in our collaborations with each other, there's something that is larger than the individuals that is actually being born. That's called synergy. We can't do it all alone. We collaborate with others. Something is coming into form. But we also need to not give away everything. We need to be the power that we were born to be if we're going to fulfill that greater destiny, personally and then also synergistically as we come together with others. And so we'll discover what happens when we hit number 5. So here you are. Yeah?
What was that card be called? Like we had
Power.
Okay,
Power.
power. Thank you.
This is the power card. Yeah, but I don't really, the Crowley deck gives names to each of the cards. I personally don't like those names because I don't always agree with everything that he came up with.
No.
That's my own opinion. You can create your own name. You could call this empowerment. I rather like that a little better. So how to empower yourself and empower others to be fully in alignment with what Spirit has in mind for them? Imagine if our world were structured in a way that allowed us to identify with that greater purpose and collaborate and create strategies to fulfill that. But that's another conversation for another day. We've held on to what we think is important. We've identified what that is. And not surprisingly, the next step is the 5 of Pentacles, where we have an image of a cripple and a widow out in the cold, in the snow, with no shoes, hobbling. Oh my God, those poor, poor people. We're absolutely sure that we let go of something we should have held on to. Oops. We're absolutely sure there was something essential that we left behind that we should have taken with us. We don't think we have the resources we need to fulfill our destiny. Anybody ever get afraid of that? Test number 1 in the physical world is worry. This anticipation and this feeling self-pity. Oh, woe is me. Oh, I have it so hard. And what is so amazing about this card is that these two are walking outside of a church. In medieval times, the church is a symbol of sanctuary. No one was turned away. Everyone was welcome for food and shelter inside of the church. The deeper truth in this is all you need to do is turn the corner, find the door instead of the window, return to your spiritual center within, return to the sanctuary within your own being. And the card is associated with Mercury in Taurus. Mercury is the principle of communication. Taurus is the principle that describes our sense of values and what it is that we need for our physical body to be nourished and to grow. Go within the sanctuary of your own being and communicate to yourself what you need. Next, communicate to others what you need. Third, communicate to appropriate external resources who can fulfill what you need. How many of us have tried to communicate with someone and they can't give us what we need? And so we're left back out in the cold thinking, oh, woe is me, I'll never get what I need. I should never have even asked. It's not about not asking, it's about asking the appropriate person who can actually fulfill what it is that you need. The number 5 is a core lesson and teaching, the Hierophant. Our needs are sacred. They are sacred. In Buddhist teachings, it's called original dependence, that we all start out dependent on Spirit. There's not a one of us who is not dependent. How do we have great compassion for the truth of our dependency and interdependency upon each other? And finding a way to discover and express and fulfill our needs is one of the core teachings. So we access the gift of temperance which allows us to be able to have one foot in the material world, one foot in the spiritual world, that allows us to transform and transmute that experience of dependency. In our world, dependency is seen as weak. However, in truth, it is our strength, because it is what guides us to appropriate resources. Those who have like mind, like vision, like mission, so that we can fulfill a greater spiritual purpose. This is the test of the material world. Know your needs and communicate your needs, instead of feeling out in the cold. So, for those of you who are Hierophants, you get to practice this every day. For those of you who were born in the month of May, this is your karma from past lives to fulfill.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, the 5. You understand how it works now? For those of you where you add your numbers up, like you're born on the 5th of the month or the 14th of the month, this is something that you need to deal with at the soul level so that you can fulfill your mission. And for those of you where, and you add the year and you end up with a 5 in there, again, this will be something very important to you. That's based on the numerology that we did last time. You can begin to see how this kind of weaves in and out of our lives.
There's no way around it.
There's no way around any of this. Right, accepting our core dependency with compassion.
What do you mean core? Sorry, question.
With compassion, being able to gain a new perspective and consciousness that there's a beauty in the truth of our dependency is really an awakening. And what ends up happening is it moves us to the 6 of Pentacles, which is an image of generosity of spirit. We have an image of a fellow in a red cloak wearing green boots of creativity, with a scale that is in balance, giving charity to individuals who are less fortunate than he. That's the image. One of the beggars is wearing yellow, which is the color of the mind. The other beggar is wearing blue, which is the color of the emotions. We need to be generous with ourselves when our mind is needing attention. We need to be generous with ourselves when our emotions are needing attention. And likewise, we then can extend generosity to others when we recognize that their ideas, attitudes, and beliefs, which might be difficult, are really an unskilled expression of their own needs. Or when their emotional tirades or depressions, once again, is an unskilled expression of their own needs. And at times when we happen to do that, it's an unskilled expression of our basic dependency and our own needs. And by the time we get to the 6, which is associated with Moon in Taurus, Moon allows us now to reflect upon ourselves, to be in touch with our feelings, to gain insight and understanding on our needs from the perspective of what is it that would be most healing, symbolized by the Lover's card. That is a resource that can allow us to open our hearts in generosity to ourselves and to each other. And likewise, how not to take ourselves too seriously while we're in this process of having gained a certain level of enlightenment. Because then we might get attached to that, and we need to recognize that those attachments too, and our needs or to fulfilling things a particular way, sometimes also need to be liberated or freed. So all of that is part of what goes in to being able to be a force in the world for social change, We have, again, not an individual figure, but a figure with 3 individuals. Social change, philanthropy now, generosity, giving, whether it's money, resource, attention, compassion. There are many ways of giving. Angeles Arrien has a beautiful way that she describes this in her book. She associates, as does Aleister Crowley as well in his research on the Tarot, that each of the 6 pentacles describes how it is that we become successful, because this is the card that represents material success. The ability to fulfill our needs in a way that is compassionate is the true success. And we discover that we can take care of our health, our diet, our exercise, nutrition, home environment, work environment by building healthy habits and routines that allow us to fulfill our goal and mission. So the way we do that is Saturn, we have a plan. Jupiter, we expand upon the plan. Venus, we begin to interact with others in relationship to that plan. Moon, we receive feedback and reflect within ourselves on the plan once we've interacted with others. Mercury, we then communicate and adjust and readjust the plan. Mars, we redirect. These are the 6 planets: Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, Moon, Mercury, Mars. We activate all of those resources in order to have a plan, expand the plan, interrelate and share the plan, stay connected with ourselves by reflecting on feedback received, communicating so we can adjust, redirect, and make a new plan. That's the formula for success, according to Angeles Arrien. So now, share with each other, how comfortable are you with the experience of success, of generosity, of compassion for yourself and others? How comfortable are you on staying with your plan, or do you abandon your plan? So you'll have a chance to work with the Pentacles along with all the majors for the next month. Believe me, some of us work with the Pentacles for several lifetimes. But we're going to focus for the next month on being in our bodies. So here we are now. We have nourished ourselves by reflecting on what we need, being able to give to ourselves so that we are full and have enough actually to be generous and give to others. We have our plan, we've adjusted it, we feel like we're moving towards the fulfillment of it, we have some success, and then lo and behold comes card number 7, and we have here the symbol of Saturn in Taurus. There seem to be barriers to our plans being fulfilled, and our needs, we're wondering, in fact, if they're going to be fulfilled. Here we have success, now we have failure. 2 sides of the same coin. Because there's an interesting thing, when we start getting success, there's a tendency then that we raise the bar. I remember when I was earning $5 an hour, it was my first job, and it's like, wow! And I could live on $5.25 a month. Now, I admit that was, 30 some odd years ago. However, there was a level or a standard that I was very comfortable with. And then when I attained a new level, the bar raised. That happens to us in the material world, where we then begin to have new seeds that we want to plant, new ambitions, new desires. And Saturn is that principle which is about structure and function, as well as obstacles and barriers. And so now I've planted new seeds, but they're not growing as fast as I'd like. Anybody here have an issue with impatience? This card, we get impatience in a lot of different ways in the Tarot. This one has to do with trying to harvest things before they've come to fruition. We have him standing here looking at the grapevines, but there are no grapes. The problem is he's trying to harvest too soon. Everything has its own natural cycle and timing before it goes forward. And we begin to understand the resource that we need in order to fulfill overcoming our fears of failure are to understand the wisdom of the charioteer who moves forward, because we have the capacity to eliminate that which does not truly serve the greater mission, which is the Tower card. We understand what is true and authentic to that spiritual purpose or destiny. In the material world, you'll notice that in 6, there were other people. Here we have somebody standing alone again. So the question is, have we gotten off our mission? Have we lost vision or sight of our ideals, our values, our aspirations? That's the source of failure. In addition to the question of, am I just not patient enough with this not being in my control? There is a larger force that is guiding the fruition of this mission, and it may or may not all be up to me. So am I able to go forward, stand in the truth, return to my mission, my vision, my values, my aspirations, my ideals, and bring them into the world no matter how long it takes, being patient with the process. So take 5 minutes now to describe your relationship to issues of failure. What is it that stimulates for you the experience of failure? And again, if this shows up in somebody's reading, there may be a question of, are they on track with their commitment to their body, health, diet, exercise? What's their relationship to work and home? Have they fulfilled their goals? Have they gotten the results that they wanted? Or are they feeling like they have failed in some way? What are the habits and routines? And are they depleting their energy, or are they supporting their energy? These would be important questions to ask. And to remind them, you have a choice. Is this something you are creating now in your life? You want to maintain and sustain these habits or patterns, or do you want to release them? Always we can interpret a card from 3 different ways. So, having done that, now having created and learned the lesson of building a structure and a foundation that can support our needs, we move to the 8. The 8s are always about power. This card, the 8 of Pentacles, shows an image of a fellow who is wearing a blue shirt with red pants, working diligently on hammering out one of those pentacles. He's in the backdrop of a city. Blue is the color of calm, peace of mind. Red is that color of passion and vitality and desire. He has found a way to be at peace with his desire by focusing his attention on the concrete material issue at hand, be it health, diet, nutrition, exercise, home environment, work environment, finances. You're going to have this whole list memorized by the time you're done today. Goals and results, and that experience of being able to be disciplined and committed. He does this through the symbol of Sun in Virgo. Again, he has now restructured his life to take care of his needs, which is the 7 of Pentacles. Now he has a new identity, the Sun, a new sense of wholeness. He's returned to that spark, that seed of spirit within his nature. And Virgo is the planetary and astrological energy that is associated with integration. So now he can integrate that spiritual purpose. Body, mind, and spirit is what Virgo represents. It is his mission and calling in life to build a new identity that brings forth that spiritual mission that fulfills his unique destiny. So when the 8 shows up in a spread or a reading, you would want to ask yourself, is this a time that I need to focus my attention on some area of my life in the physical world and build a new focus or identity that allows me to integrate my personal mission, my destiny, or whatever that personal mission might be, in a way that allows me to embody the experience. It's not just mental, it's not just emotional, it's full embodiment. That's Virgo. And the means and method that I do that is I need the resource of being able to be creative in my relationship to taming my fears and passions, as well as accessing the power of my passion in a way that allows me to be creative, the green field that the lion is on, with the purple mountain in the background, always on track with my spiritual purpose, and bringing in that light from a distant star, my personal unique mission, whatever that is. How do I create a practice or an identity and create the focus, the discipline, and the commitment to do it in a very Virgo way, which is little detail by little detail. This is not about having to do the big grand scheme. This is about just taking it one day at a time, sometimes one step at a time, sometimes one breath at a time. So ask yourself, where is my focus of attention now, and how am I integrating? What is it that I need to integrate in order to embody my spiritual purpose? That's what the 8 is asking us. And we're going to save questions to the end.
Just the word. Sir, you've been given keywords for each one.
You know, I can't say because I'm kind of just moving us along here. The keywords for the 8? 8 is about power and empowerment. And how do I empower myself to embody a new identity, the sun, that is built upon taking care of the task at hand, whatever that task is: health, diet, exercise, home environment, work environment, in a way that really is integrated with my deeper purpose in life. So we have now shifted from Capricorn. The first skill that we need is Capricorn, to be able to have a plan and a strategy on how do I be in this physical world, to Taurus, 3 cards that relate to Taurus, how do I nourish myself in this physical world? How do I do self-care in this physical world? To the last 3 cards, 8, 9, and 10, which are about integration. How do I integrate my spiritual purpose with my mind and actions in this physical world? And the 8 is the first step, is about building a new identity that is willing to focus in on what needs to be focused in on, to be diligent, to be detail-oriented, to take care of business. It's what the 8 is about. And what we discover is if we do that work, we then progress to the 9. The 9 of Pentacles. Now remember, the 9s are about some level of completion, always in humanitarian. And so now here we are with the 9. It's associated with Venus in Virgo. Venus in Virgo. Venus is about relationship. Again, how am I whole within myself and in the outer world? The circle on the cross is the symbol for Venus. And in Virgo, how am I whole within myself, in the world, in a way that integrates spiritual purpose? And we have a beautiful picture now that those grapes that were waiting to come to even bud on number 7, now not only have they blossomed and bloomed, but the fruit is ripe and ready to pick on the vine. But it might not be completely ready. You know, when we really know something is ripe, it's almost ready to drop off on its own. It's almost there. And you don't want to pick the grapes too soon. Anybody see a nice purple grape and you pick it and you eat it and it's like, ooh, too sour. It needs to come to completion. The number 9 is another message around patience. Take the time and space that is needed for the fruition to happen so it's fully ripe and juicy and delicious. I love this image. We have the image of an individual with a hooded hawk in the garden with a teeny weeny little snail in the corner. The snail reminds us to take our time and not rush at the end. To not push ourselves or our important relationships to integrate, that there is a process that has a timing of its own. Then we are able to make steady gains, day by day, more and more. The gains come to us in their own way. We need the gift and resources of trusting our intuition, realizing that we are on an evolutionary journey here. This evolutionary journey that takes us from the depths of our being to the experience of finding balance between our domestic and wild nature, symbolized by the dog and the wolf, as we walk the golden path of consciousness beyond the towers of constructed reality of our human conditions to the mountain peaks of spirituality. We do this by returning to a source within ourselves, symbolized by the hermit. How do we return to our own inner light? And I just realized I have this. We have so many different decks here. I'm just going to flip this over so it looks more like the cards that you're working with. That probably looks a little more familiar to you in terms of the colors. Same symbols, but the colors are a little different. So now the question is, what is it that you are bringing to fulfillment and fruition? What gains have you made? And what areas do you still need to be patient with in relationship to your goals around home and work and finances and health and exercise and diet and nutrition? What is it that boosts your energy? What is it that depletes your energy? How many gains have you made in being able to eliminate those things that deplete you and bring in those activities, circumstances, environments, and opportunities that increase your energy? That's what this card is asking you. Okay. And so now the pentacles are so lovely because we see the process of how we come to materialize our values, our aspirations, our spiritual principles. The spiritualization of matter is what this path is about. And the 10 is the epitome of that. So now that we have a new relationship to this experience of integration of body, mind, and spirit here in the physical world, because now we are patient. We have attained that wisdom that comes with the hermit and the moon, because when it's not happening out there, we've learned to go inward and reflect instead of acting out or reacting. We choose and turn inward. And the result of that is it takes us then out into the world in a whole new way, into the 10 of Pentacles. And we have a beautiful image, and this is the only image in the entire deck that has 3 generations plus animals. and the plant kingdom as well. It happens in the image of a town or a city. We have two adults, we have a child, we have a white-haired elder. When we integrate our spiritual purpose, it is not in isolation. We integrate, and the true fulfillment of our spiritual purpose and values is in community, in the world, bringing it into life. This includes the spiritualization of our relationship to our instinctive nature, represented by the dogs. And the card is associated with Mercury in Virgo. We have the skill, which we gained earlier, of how to communicate our needs by knowing what we need, by having changed our thinking about who we ask to help us fulfill our needs, because we now go to appropriate resources. That's the last time that we met Mercury in this little path. Now we are integrating this capacity to communicate, to exchange, to be engaged in a way that allows us to continue to be not just whole in ourselves, which is the Virgo, but whole in ourselves in interaction with community. This is now the 10 card, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Sun card, along with the power of the Magician. We have the ability to focus our attention to get the best result in community by recognizing that who we are is an instrument of a higher source. We have the skill of turning ourselves around and making positive action, what's called right action if we want to look at the Buddhist path. So we're not doing negative karma, but ultimately creating positive karma, because we recognize that every single one of us is actually truly innocent, every human being, whether we are the simple child, whether we are the wise child, whether we are the cynical child, or whether we are the child who doesn't even know how to ask a question. There is a place for us. And we open and create a place in our lives for each other in very concrete ways. There's one thing I would like to add just to complete. Once we have done all of this, we have gained a certain level of mastery. That's what the sovereignty cards represent. The court cards represent, first, the Pentacles. We have gained a sense of skill in being able to create a plan or a strategy and how to follow through and fulfill that plan. The Knights always represent the domain that we are fulfilling. So the Page of Pentacles is associated with Capricorn. We create plans and strategies, structures and supports for our relationship to the earth. Diet, health, nutrition, exercise, activity, rest, and sleep, in relationship to home and work and finances. I forgot to mention sensuality and sexuality. How could I forget that? That's part of the physical. Oh! You have to throw that in there into everything else that I've said. You need to include the erotic physical nature because it's what boosts our energy as well.
That's a whole new story.
Yeah. So we need to remember to ask that question at every step along the way. You know, there's always something. When I hold a certain number of things, there's always one that, I told you it would come in later. Here it is. The sensual and the sexual is another aspect of the physical body. That's the Virgo part, by the way, in this particular, and the Taurus part, which is sensuality. We also then are having strategies and plans on how to deal with home environment and work environment and finance, our ability to create habits, patterns, and routines that allow us to be disciplined in the fulfillment of our goals. So that's the Capricorn showing up on the Knight, on the horse. We move forward with that. You'll notice the Knight is on a horse that's not moving. It's one of the only knights on a horse that's not moving. It's the only knight. So the point is, in the physical world, it's about receptivity. It's not about going out and charging and making things happen, which is the opposite of what we think. It's about being present with the energy. And then we do the king, which is associated with Taurus. We identify what nourishes and nurtures us, what builds the strength of the body, what allows us to embody our health, our eroticism, our capacity to create environments that fulfill our goals and purpose. That's the king. We've mastered that ability now, which then brings us to the highest level of attainment, which is the Queen, Virgo. We now become representations of living an integrated life